I'm seeing companies selling for 28, 30x. It's because of the AI component. We're in the infant stage of AI. 90% of the football players would experience economic hardship or go broke within 2 years of retiring. Basketball players, 70% within 4 to 7 years.
How many deals do you look at a month? You got 35 years experience in private equity and hedge funds. You've been doing this for a while.
Been doing it for a while, Brad.
Now, I'm interested in private equity and hedge funds because I'm just starting to figure out that buying businesses is better than building them.
I'm in agreement with you, 100%.
Well, you've been in agreement for a while, it sounds like. So you've always done this? I mean, how did you get into this?
Let me tell you a story. I was competing in Japan. I lived in Japan for a while. I was fighting professionally in an organization called K1. And my body was getting beat up, training like 6-8 hours a day. And I'm like, I had a good friend, Steve Goldman. I called him up. I go, Steve, I don't think I could do this much longer. And I was young. I was like 21, 22. I said, I can't do this much longer. I said, he was in college. I go, what are we going to do? He goes, we're going to be traders. I said, no, we're going to be traders. Okay, done. So we started trading. Long story short, I came back. I got a job on Wall Street. In the floor in the futures markets.
Was that easy to do?
No. I can go there a little bit if you want, because everything about my career is unconventional, Brad. I went to college, but I did it part time, and I got a degree in economics. But nothing about my career is conventional. Like friends of mine went to college, came out, got an interview, got a job. I didn't do that. So when I came back from Japan, I decided I was going to be a trader. So I actually went to the floor of the exchange, and I realized you can't just walk on the floor of the exchange. You actually have to be invited or be a member. So long story short, I came back with a suitcase and had a suit on, and I kind of snuck in. And I got past security and saw a friend of mine on the floor, Chipper, and I said, Chip, I need a job, buddy. I want to be a trader. So he got me a job. And from there, I knew I didn't want to be on the floor, so I wound up pursuing hedge fund guys. I started reading about them. Soros, Louis Bacon, Moore, all these big guys, okay? Paul Tudor Jones. And I realized Paul Tudor Jones is a guy I wanted to work for. And he cut his teeth in the cotton pits, and he was like a rock star. This is like the late 80s. He was a rock star. And he managed billions of dollars. And back then, like 2 or 3 billion was huge. You were the biggest. So I wound up getting a job with him, and I really took my game to the next level. I really educated myself. I started buying books, reading, and I started becoming a trader. And I became a portfolio manager, and I did that for like 16 years. And then in 2001, I worked for another big fund called Rand, and I decided that I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Like I had my first dojo in 1992. I was a young guy. And I decided, I loved that. I did it because I was passionate. It was my lifestyle. And, but I always wanted to buy and sell companies. I wanted really to do investment banking, M&A work. But hedge funds is different than that, unless you have a hedge fund that focuses on that, which most of them focus on securities, like equities, bonds, commodities. So I decided to transition out and get into private equity. And that's when I started a private equity fund back in 2001. I financed it with my own money, and one of the principals backed me. And from there, I just started, buying and selling businesses. And I've done like over 70 now in the last 20 something years.
What's the biggest takedown so far?
Did an exit on in a hedge fund, believe it or not. Started a division in this hedge fund, and got a percentage of it. I didn't want to get paid for that, so let me just get a piece of that. Built it up. We did about $300-something million worth of acquisitions, and about a year and a half later, it was worth $400-something million, 480. So that was the biggest exit in terms of that for me.
Do you ever feel like you get jaded when you're talking about numbers that big?
I do. I'm almost, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but You're right. It's well said. You almost feel jaded. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm starting to do it because, like, I'm talking about, it was only 90 million. It's like, only 90 million. What happened? Like, why is 90 million nothing anymore? Well, it is. It's still a lot.
You said a mouthful. We talk about these numbers, right? Because the world we live in, billions, but you talk about 50, 60, 80, $100 million. My objective when I started on Wall Street, in my mind was always 100 million. That was my number. And that was a lot.
To net out?
Net out. Get 100, and then I roll into the next phase of my life, right? I had every decade I had planned. Didn't kind of roll out exactly that way, but I had planned every decade, you know what I mean? But I came from a very humble beginning. Poor, growing up in the inner city, in the hood, and fought my way out of it, literally. So, money was very uncomfortable for me. I struggled with that in my 20s a lot. Like when I started making money, you have a Porsche, a Ferrari, Ranger, and you have all these things, right? And had a place in the city, had a place in Jersey City, had a place in the suburbs, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm the shit, And of course, God has a way of humbling us when we need it, right? He will strike you down when you need it. So I got humbled. I lost a ton of money at one point, my 20s, late 20s, and I got humbled. And, that's when I realized, when not to trade is as important as it's more important than trading, when not to trade, right? When not to take the shot. So
when is that?
When you're on a roll, right? Say you start buying and selling these companies and you're on a roll and you're feeling pretty good, right? You're getting like a peacock. You're fluffing up, right? At some point, you're probably going to your ego will get in the way if you don't have it in check, right? Because the ego to me is the devil. So if you don't have it in check, and you'll make the wrong acquisition, or you'll sell it too soon or too late, a company you own, and you'll realize that, and it will humble you instantly because you'll see the math. The math doesn't lie. And for me, it's always an extreme measure of assessment. I'm an economist by trade, by education, an analyst by trade, right? So I analyze everything. It's all about numbers, Brad. So, I tell people, when you think you know the numbers, check 10 more times. And people say it's analysis paralysis. I say, no, it's not. Double check. Use the old adage, measure twice, cut once. So when you get a little bit full and you're rocking, you have to check yourself. Even some of the big guys who play in the billion area will tell you, I was riding high, and then, I thought I was, unstoppable, and boom. So I think checking yourself constantly. And I have a great vehicle. For me, it's martial arts. I meditate a lot. I pray a lot. And that always reminds me of who I am, where I came from, and to stay humble and don't think you're all that special, Be confident, but don't be arrogant. So like you said, buying companies is a lot easier than starting them and building them.
Yeah.
You built this empire probably from nothing, scratch, from what I read.
1,000%.
Right? From scratch, from what I read about you, right? And I admire you for that. I admire you a lot, for many reasons. And I know you're a godly man. I know you're a family man. I know you're focused on, growth, personal growth, and becoming a better person and helping other people, which is really what we're all about. But you have to check yourself, my brother, always. You know what I mean? Don't think you're it. Like that big exit I had, I wasn't having fun anymore. I literally wasn't having fun. I made more money I ever made in my life, ever. In one shot deal, it was the biggest. And I wasn't even having fun.
Why?
The purpose started to fade, and I started to pursue it like for the money again. And for me, it's not about the money, especially now.
What was your purpose in the beginning?
I went through a really tough divorce.
So revenge.
Yes. You know?
Revenge is a powerful motivator.
What a moving force it can be. Tsunami.
Yeah. One time I was with my first wife, and I was pretty much I wasn't a very good guy back then. I mean, I wasn't a bad guy, but I mean, I wasn't a, perfect example of what a husband should be, or just a basic human being, right? I was a little bit selfish. I was always just looking to get rich. Never could for some reason, but in retrospect, I know the reason now. But back then, my wife at the time's sister, because I ultimately had to stay at my wife's mom's house. Can you imagine how shit that feels? So I was staying at my wife's mom's house, and I forgot, and I was arrogant, and I thought I was cool, and yet I couldn't even freaking afford rent, right? So at the end of the day, man, I was a little arrogant, but her sister came over and said, basically one time she was real mad at me. She came out and she said, "You're a bum. You'll always be a bum." And I never forgot that. And I think that's what drove me to say, oh yeah, let me show you what a bum can do. And so again, motivators, purpose, the why behind it is a big motivator. And yours was what? You got divorced. You wanted to show her something?
I was riding pretty high right before the divorce, even though I was kind of not in a great place mentally and emotionally, but I was riding pretty high. And it was a very litigious divorce. It took years. And I didn't work during that time. I just took a sabbatical. I did very little work. And I did a gig here, a little thing here, there in the finance biz, but nothing substantial. And my kid was going through a tough time, my oldest son, and I just focused on him because we had a special bond. And it broke my heart to watch him go through this. And that raged me quite a bit to see what he went through, because I don't believe a kid should be used as a weapon. So I let everything kind of go. I did a great deal right before the divorce. It was a phenomenal deal. We created an HFT, high frequency trading operation, sold it to a big hedge fund on the West Coast. And that was a great trade, because I took two companies, I merged their technology and the team and made something magnificent and was able to flip it. And that stayed in my head that we did that right before all this, and I shut down. So then right before COVID hit, matter of fact, I was at Darren Prince's 50th birthday out in LA. And that was in February of 2020. And I was supposed to start in March of 2020. And COVID hit, and so I wasn't going to do this, but then I did, and the whole thing took off. But I was definitely a revenge component to it, because she made me out to be a demon to my son, and that's all that mattered to me. When I had a kid, my son, I decided that I was going to be the best father ever, not just a great father, the best father. Show this kid what it is to be a good human being, strong man, a solid person who's principled, So yeah, it was kind of revenge,
So when that started to fade and you just kind of lost the purpose, what got it back?
My buddy, Darren Prince, Darren and I were friends for like 28 years. We go way back. And, I've been talking to him for 28 years I call him Baba. I go, Baba, you're not utilizing your Rolodex. You have a Rolodex like no one else. What you've established is really that. Your relationships are incredible. I said, let's do something that really can facilitate that and utilize it to the highest level, actualize it, So we started discussing different things, and the fund came up, and those are great stories too. You'd love those. But, getting back into creating a fund of our own with a different twist, right? So the legacy fund was kind of, my ambition was to create this fund, raise money, get professional athletes to invest in it as well. And the purpose of that was to get them on board. And if they invested with us, we get them almost GP, general partner positions in the companies we own. Teach them how to be executives, how to be investors, how to be entrepreneurs. So that when they roll out, and as Darren always says, they don't die, they die two lives when they stop professional sports. They don't have that experience. And a lot of them lose a lot of money doing that, right? The vices, all the negative things a lot of times happen because they don't know what to do. They can't get that endorphin rush. So we wanted to bring them in, teach them, how to become executives, brand ambassadors. And that really facilitated, my ambition again to really help these guys. I'm a helper. I like to help. So, I talked to Darren about it and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I know exactly the recipe for this thing to happen. I gave him the recipe. I said, go find the ingredients for me. And, one day, I just never forget this. I got out of the shower. He calls me. We're talking. I'm like, I says, well, we got to get this thing rocking. I said, this is what we need. He's like, all right. He goes, I said, I need someone in sports who was a professional baller on the highest level. Killer. I said, who's still in the game on a different capacity. He's in the trenches with the players, but he's still as relevant today as he was then. He goes, I got it. I go, who? He goes, Neek. I go, Neek. He goes, Dominique. I go, Dominique. As in Dominique, the human highlight reel Wilkins? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm calling him right now. I go, BS, you're calling him. I said, I need a week or two to prepare for that conversation. He goes, I'm calling right now. I go, don't you MF and call him now. I go, forget. He called him right there. Got him on the phone. And we talked for like close to an hour, and he was on board all in. And we talked about like what the purpose was, like the main purpose is obviously to make money, right? Got to make money for your investors, for your LPs. But we really wanted to help the players, and one of my thesis was, using Allen Iverson as the thesis. I'm like, this dude, when you guys were rolling, Dominique's a Hall of Fame legend, right? One of the best to grace the courts ever. And he's played with some of the best. And I said, Allen, when you guys were making $5 million, he was making close to $250 million in his career. I said, and he lost it all. I go, how does that happen? I said, I know how it happens. Mindset. He wasn't taught to transition and take his efforts and his discipline from the game and put it into other things like business, entrepreneurship, investing. He said, that's what we're going to be. And Neek loved it. And Neek actually came up with the name. I said, we need a name. We were talking legacies. I said, I want to build legacies for these guys. They're legends. They achieve the highest echelon in society. They have fame beyond billionaires. I said, and yet they go broke. I go, how does that even happen? So, I said, we need a name. He goes, Amo, you just said it. The legacy. I said, the legacy fund. Boom, was done. And that really inspired me. Like Darren, I said, I needed another entrepreneur who was big in the game, who was well known, had his own level of fame, but was like next level entrepreneur. And he was like, I got it. Kevin Harrington, the original OG shark from the Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And I was like, that would be cool. Got him on the phone. We talked. He was game. We did a deal with him. So I had those three, and it just renewed my spirit to go out and start rocking and rolling again. It was like fun. You know what I mean? I said, I want to make it fun too. Let's have fun building businesses.
But aren't you worried that like when they throw money in, you lose it?
No, I'm not worried about losing money. I have a thing I created called IAM, Investment Analysis and Management, right? And not in that order. So I'll analyze a company, right? They have to have certain criteria for us to consider them.
What are those?
For the legacy fund, it's got to be 10 million top line minimum and 2 to 5 million EBITDA minimum. So, say you have a $100 million fund, you want to buy between 6 and 8 companies, put 10, 15 into them, and then scale them up by putting another 10, 15 million into them with conventional means of funds, getting loans and different things like that, investors, and scale them up. So it's not that hard to manage 7, 8 companies. I've managed over 20 at one point. That starts getting a little crazy, but 7 to 10 is doable.
Did you have a team that would go in and like take over roles?
In the private equity fund when I originally started, I just made investments, and then it started to, these things evolve, right? Like your business here. Like I walk in and I see what's going on. I've been doing this stuff a long time. I went solo, so I have an idea of what's going on in these different rooms, right? And it started with you. It evolved though, right? All of a sudden you need a sound engineer. You need a tech guy. You need this. I need a salesperson. So over time, I started building up a team that would go in and help manage. I didn't want to go in and take over. Like that wasn't my objective. I wanted to help the principal, the owner, the entrepreneur evolve as a person and build. I never liked the corporate rating thing. I didn't think that was a good thing. It wasn't for me, at least.
Did you ever buy a dud?
Yeah.
How does that feel?
That's not a good thing. That's not a good. That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, a buddy of mine had a little family money. He had a family office, and he said, all you need is one to win.
He's not.
Because I was like, aren't you worried about losing? He goes, dude, you only need one. I mean, he was doing like startups. So like, he'd gamble on startups. He says, maybe put, a couple $1 million in 10 of them, and you only need one to crush it. And so I'm like, that makes sense.
He's correct. If you have, say you have 8 companies, 1, maybe 2 are going to be kick-ass companies. You know what I mean? Really rocking.
Yeah.
But one of those will be the crown gem. And that's all you need. That one can, you can 10, 20, 50 exit. And that's all you need. Then it's rocking, especially in the, with tech now, with AI. AI, so being that you're considering buying and selling companies, AI is selling for 28 to 30x if it's really good.
Revenue or EBITDA?
You might even get revenue, but usually EBITDA.
Yeah, because I put the other day my financials for Lightspeed into ChatGPT, told it the whole story. Took me like 50 freaking minutes just telling it everything, loading the financials. And I said, study the financials, study everything. You're a business expert. You're a Steve Jobs mixed with Bill Gates, mixed with Elon Musk. You're a genius. You know how you prompt it? Yeah. And I said, tell me what my company's worth and tell me if you would sell it or scale it. And at the end of the day, at the end of the little spit it out, it said it was worth way more than I was assuming. And I said, how is it worth this much? And they said, software companies like mine sell for revenue, ARR, not EBITDA.
Ooh, ARR.
So I'm like, now I understand why some of these software companies are doing what they're doing. I always think, how are they making any money? Well, it turns out they're not. They're not making any money. They're burning money, but they're gaining ARR. And so that's the part I don't understand. Why would someone walk in and hand someone $100 million because it's making $100 million, but out of the $100 million, it's only making $1 million? Like, doesn't that matter?
They see a bigger picture, Brad.
What picture are they looking at?
So they're seeing the potential of the IP, okay, of the ability for that tech to be applied to other fields that can utilize it. And that's what companies like, NVIDIA do. They're an incredible chip maker. A lot of people say they're not as good as they are. I think they are. They have an ability to affect so many businesses, right? Everything in this room probably has something with an NVIDIA chip or something. You know what I mean? So their ability to take something on such a broad scale, right? That scalability so wide and so deep that the intrinsic value of it is way beyond what you think. And that's probably what happened with ChatGPT. I love the fact that you did that you took the time to do that, because I'm sure that took time away from things you needed to do. But those things that analysis, the I in the I am, right there, the A rather, that will reassures you of what you're doing and helps you stay focused on the end game.
Well, I actually switched my focus because I was always focused on EBITDA. I got to get the net revenue up so I can sell it one day, and in reality, I don't need to worry about the net revenue. I need to worry about the top line, annualized recurring revenue,
100%,
because we sell licenses. So now I'm shifting. Like I'm going to start coming out with killer deals. All I care about now is ARR. Because I said, what if I had 120 sales agents working on commission only and needed to double my current ARR? It just went. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to make much money doing that. But apparently they don't care.
They don't care.
Now I'll be pissed if I triple the ARR, my EBITDA stays the same, and it's not worth ARR. But they're saying software ARR.
So your company's software more.
Yeah.
Okay. So
this one is a training technology. It's the most advanced interactive training and communication system out there. A lot of people have what's called LMSs, learning management systems. Those are not effective because ultimately all they do is host learning materials. They don't deliver, track, and measure them. They don't cause you to go through it with repetition, practice, and accountability. So real training, and you can look at any athlete, any top level person or company on earth, and you'll see that effective training requires good content, which is the right way to do it in the first place. Then you need practice, repetition, and accountability. Those learning management systems host these things. They give a username to an employee, for example. They go through a video and say they're trained. Well, that's not training. That's exposure. So Lightspeed was built to train people. It has repetition and interactivity and all these things that none of the rest of them have. And it's crazy to me because I've been around 24 years. I kind of started the online learning space with this system. There wasn't any out there when I started. So, when you're 24 years old, you think you would already be something. And then I see these little turd systems pop up. Next thing you know, they're worth $1 billion. I'm like, what in the hell am I doing wrong? How come I'm not worth $1 billion? I started this party and we have the best technology out there, bar none, but I couldn't figure it out. Well, it's because I wasn't focused on ARR. I was focused on profit. I never raised money. Did
it all yourself.
Bootstrapped.
Yep.
I had to sell, make money, put it back in, make money, put it back in. I didn't understand. Why don't you just raise 10 million on a Series A or something? If I'd have known what I was doing, this would be $1 billion organization already, or probably multi-billion. And, now that I know what I know, I'm going to probably still go for that.
I would encourage you to, and being that we're talking about your business and you're talking about ChatGPT, AI, I would implement an AI component to that.
We already did.
All right. So now
AI role play.
Now you're a different level.
So let's say I teach you how to sell. Well, now I have an AI role play generator that will allow you to talk into the camera and practice and role play what I just taught you to see if you're saying the right things, having the right tonality, and then it grades you. So companies can use it to train their team and not force them to practice on real customers. They can practice on virtual customers. So that's all AI generated.
Practice makes perfect. I love the fact that you did that because that can change the game for you. Seriously. It changes when I'm telling you, I'm seeing companies selling for 28, 30x AR. And it's because of the AI component to the tech. So you're doing all the right things.
Do you think it might be a bubble like the internet was at one time?
Not even close. We're in the infant stage of AI. This is the infant stage of AI. And I've been in tech pretty much my whole career with trading. It's total, trading is technology, right? And to see it evolve to where it is now is incredible.
Do you think I could load into AI all the stock tickers and say, tell me which one to buy, and they accurately predict the right ones?
I don't necessarily believe AI has that capacity, because the market is so dynamic. It's so there are predictables, and I've utilized them in my career, and I still do. I still trade. I still manage money in that capacity, because once a trader, always a trader in terms of buying and selling things.
So when you manage money, you have a big old bank account filled with dry powder, and then you say, we're going to buy that, buy that, buy that. Like, how are you a hodler? Do you wait long term, or do you buy and sell within a month?
I'm in and out of stuff. I like short-term trading. Crypto, I like longer term. I've owned, Bitcoin for 10, 12 years. But I like trading in and out. I like to take money out of I like to take money out of the market, because the market is relentless. You're up. I did a post 4 weeks ago about, I laughed. I said, don't ever take your eye off the ball. I said, it's Friday. Monday, we were rocking. I was in the money big time. I got so caught up in the businesses that I'm running, I took my eye off it. I talked about putting stop orders in, like profit stops, not a lot of people put, stops in to protect your downside. You could put profit stops in, right? Where you project what number it's going to go to, right? So, Amazon's going to hit this number and I'm going to sell this many shares or all of it. I didn't put them in. I usually do. I put profit stops in, and I didn't. And I got my ass kicked, and I was pissed. So I don't believe that AI is a predictor of the market. I think you can use components of it to predict certain parameters. You can utilize it to analyze data at a very fast rate. But I don't think it's going to spit out a portfolio for you that's going to make you, 100% on your money. I don't. It's not going to happen.
So if an entrepreneur is listening to this, like me, who started a business from scratch, now it's profitable, how would they raise money, and when should they?
Well, you talked earlier about your friend who does startups, right? And occasionally I'll invest in those too, some startups. Just if I got to love the person. But if someone comes to me with something that's really magical about them and what they're working on, I might invest in it. But I think once you get to a number, when I say number, $1, where you're producing a certain number, and you figured out how to run that business pretty well, and you have a good concept of how you want to scale it, then you should go seek money, because you're going to be able to tell your story much better. You got to tell a story that's tangible. It's tangential to people, to investors, for your friends, family, whoever.
Who are you pitching? The fund managers?
Well, like I just said, a lot of these younger entrepreneurs should be pitching to their friends and family. I believe that. It's tough, because if you screw up, you got to deal with them. You got to live with these people. But if you have, if you can do that first tranche of money, your first raise, and let that facilitate you in the right direction, then it's much easier to go out. Like you could do a fundraise, you can do a fundraise on some of the different platforms and raise some capital and start scaling up, and then say, you know what, I got it. You get the bugs out. You could tweak it. I got I got it. I'm feeling good about this. I'm feeling really confident. Then you go hit someone like me. Listen, we're doing this much money. Here's our top line. Here's whatever. Here's the parameters that we're doing. Bring that particular fund what they're looking for. Feed them what they need, and then raise from there, because you're going to have to give equity up.
What are they looking for, though? I would imagine, because if I were a serious investor, which I'm about to be, I would be looking at a couple of things. Number one, top line revenue. Number two, EBITDA. Number three, growth rate. I want to see that it's growing. Mm-hmm. If it's declining, I want to know what the hell's going on. And then last, I want to know what your plan is for the money. Because a lot of times I've had people hit me up. I'm not an investor, but I got money. So people hit me up And I say, well, what's the money for? And they say, well, I've been at it for 3 years and, my monthly nut is about X. So, I'm going to take a salary of X. And I'm like, oh no, dude, I'm not paying your salary. Like I want to see the business grow. The money I'm giving you would have to go into the business. They're like, well, if I can't eat, then it won't, then how can I grow it? And I'm like, well, bro, that's probably an indication for me not to do it because you can't make it work for you.
You just really said a mouthful. Pearl of wisdom. When someone comes to me with that, not a red flag. It's a done deal. Thank you. Have a nice day.
So if they're planning on taking any for themselves, it's over.
I want people that don't take any money. I'm not taking a salary. This is all going to R&D, marketing, scalability, bringing salesmen in. They have to come in with a definitive plan. And I want to see it in black and white, not the schematic in your brain. Put it on paper, lay it out like an architect, and go through every piece of it with me thoroughly. Don't pause and forget a piece. I want to know everything. And I'm not talking about you being the CEO and your CFO has to go explain the financial piece and your COO has to, how we're going to bring in more managers. No, you need to know everything. You come to me with the entire schematic and hit me so hard that I go, Jesus, man, this person really did their homework. They are ready. Now you're ready. And that's not magic. That's common sense, right? Like you just said, someone comes to you and says, well, now I'm ready to make $1 million. I've been making 100 grand, but now I'm ready to make $1 million and I need 10 from you so I can make $1 million a year. You're like, I don't think so. It took, how long it took me to get to where I'm at. And everybody thinks the same way, right? Anybody with money, investor. So they better come in with a plan that is as close to flawless. And there's no such thing, but as close to flawless to start as there is. Cause I'll look at it and I'll see the faults in it. I'll see some holes in the game. And if I like it, I can point that out to them. And I'm going to tell you right now, another big component to my successful investing is the principal's ability to accept accountability, accept that they're not always right, and take advice and use it to change. And if I don't think they can change, because change is the one constant in life that everybody hates, but is the constant in life. We change every day. Right? We look a little different every day. If they can't make that pivot and accept that, thank you. Nice to meet you. Have a good day. But if they can, let's talk.
How many deals do you look at a month?
I look at from 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Eastern, I'm in New York, till 6 to 8 o'clock at night. Every 15 to 30 minutes, I'm looking at a deal. That's the deal flow level. They're pitching to me or talking to potential investors or other private equity guys who we can do a deal together because I do that. We'll do a venture. And in the morning, I do all my own internal stuff. From the minute I wake up, I work from the minute I wake up, besides the kids. They get my time. I kind of work around my life, because I'm on 24/7. But my kid, the family is numero uno. That's it. But I look at a lot of deals. I mean, every day, do the math. I probably let's say I look at 8 deals a day.
Are they just like all on paper, buttoned up, financials? You just know what to look for?
I get them scrubbed.
Someone's vetting them.
Yeah, vetting them for me. And
then you pick the winners?
Yeah.
Is it your say when you say we're doing it, or do you have a committee?
Well, I have my partners, and I always ask them. I always ask my partners their opinions, because they're instrumental. We'll go back to that for 1 second. I brought my partners in. They're not, Kevin's a finance guy. He's an entrepreneur, but not like a finance guy like I am. Kevin created the infomercial. What you used to see when we used to come home, after the club at night, you'd see Tony Robbins on TV. That's because of Kevin. He created that, among other things. He has a tremendous entrepreneurial, creative spirit. He's the most positive person. I have to actually mitigate his positivity at times. You know what I mean? But I pass it by them because I will utilize their expertise to the max. I'll pull Darren and go, Darren, here's a potential deal. What do you think? Because I don't have their field of expertise. That's the beauty of it. And these are not guys who think like me. That's what I like about the fund. That's what's fun about the fund. They're not like me. I think like a finance guy to some degree, you know, even though I say I'm an artist, I'm not just a finance guy, I'm an artist, you know, and businesses are my clay, right? But it's from the martial arts. I'm an artist first. But I'll bring the deal to them and I'll say, Darren, what do you see in here? And he'll give me his opinion. And it probably 2 or 3 things that I didn't think about. Neek, what do you see? How would you impact this as someone of your level? Boom, Ammo, I could do this, this, and this. Kevin, what do you think about this? You know, what do you think about the scale of it? And they'll all give me their opinion. And that for me is priceless, you know, because I don't think like they do. And they come back as not like a private equity, a hedge fund guy. And that, Brad, to me is priceless. So I pass it by them, but ultimately I'll make a decision. I'll be like, all right, guys, we're gonna take a position in this company, you know. And I like to take a majority position because then I mitigate the risk. I can help them because now we go in and help them manage too. I'll help them manage the company. I found that is probably one of the greatest mitigators for me. You know, when you have a dud, you know, if you could have went in and maybe put the right people in place at the beginning, it might have changed. And you're going to find this because now you're starting to take, you know, a different avenue and a different revenue stream of investing in companies. You're going to see that the principal, the founder, like you and I, are really good at what we do. You're really good at doing this, but you might not be really good at running a business. You know what I mean? You might have a tremendous amount of knowledge here, you know, how to run this show, but you don't know how to run a business right or scale it. And I find that's the biggest downside. That right there is one of the biggest variables, dependent variable in success and failure, is really getting to know the principal and what their limitations are.
What about their team?
Their team as well. Because I've met a lot of CFOs who shouldn't have been counting pennies in a piggy bank, but they were CFO. So, you know.
I had one of those a long time ago.
We all have.
I had one that I gave 33% of the business to. It was my buddy. Yeah. And he wanted the title of CFO. So I said, okay, you'll be the CFO. And then like, I forget, maybe 2 years, you know, he didn't even work here because we weren't making any money. And then when I finally started to get it to make some money, then he came back with a big fat salary. And then I found out he was not a CFO. I found out that he was helping himself to midnight withdrawals at the casinos, and then just putting it in the books as a loan, you know, and I wasn't even looking at the books. It wasn't enough to worry about. And then so eventually I found out all this stuff, but I already given him equity. So I had to buy him out for like 2.4 mil.
That was the most painful check you ever wrote.
Yes.
And it may be, and you might be writing bigger checks than that. That one's going to be the most, but that was the best lesson you could have ever learned, right? Pain is such a great.
He almost tried to take the company. He got another dude and tried to like finagle me out of here.
Let me tell you, my blood percolates when I hear that, because one thing I've learned in my lifetime, and I've been around for a long time in this game and in life, loyalty to me is almost everything. I have people in my organizations who are so loyal to me and probably are not the right person for their position, but because of the loyalty, I keep them there. And they have so much other added value, it doesn't matter. But when people do that, that bothers me to the literally the core of my being. Because when you offer someone the graciousness of your spirit and your heart, right? You want to work with this person, and you give them equity, and they spit in your face. If someone steals from me, they're done. Everything changes. I feel like I go back in the ring when I have my fight face on. That's how I get.
Would you be above giving them an ass whooping?
You know, Darren yells at me all the time. You know, I have this Italian, you know, my old school Italian thing comes out in me where I was raised, you know, in Newark was like Brooklyn. I would want to kick someone's ass if they did that. I would literally might be willing to get arrested to kick their ass to prove a point.
Smack them around.
Smack them around. and it's crazy that I say that. Like right now, my family's going, why does he say these things on, it's the truth. People like that deserve an ass kicking. They deserve an ass whipping so they don't do it again to someone else.
Yeah, I just posted a video on my social media, Instagram, and it was a video of some girl playing pool with her guy, and some drunk, you could see he was drunk, walked up behind her and kind of gave her the poker in the butt look.
I saw it.
Yeah, and he just walked over and bam, knocked him out. And all I said on there was this justified? And dude, it's already got close to 1 million views, like I don't thousands of comments.
I don't comment on. I commented. If you look in yours, I commented yes. Yep. 3 exclamation words. You know what? If someone touches your woman, doesn't to me, and the society we live in right now.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully, it's going to change a little bit. Right. That's going to be frowned upon. Right. Because back in the feudal days, if someone did that, that was grounds for a duel. Right? Whether it was a sword or a gun, right?
Yeah.
10 paces, turn and fire.
Did you see some of those comments?
Crazy.
That was just out of line. It's like, what is in line? When someone comes up and like dry humps your girl, because they're drunk, you're just supposed to say, hey, buddy, back off.
In that video, the woman tried to stop her man because she knew. But I could tell you this. To me, there's nothing more justified than that. Nothing. When you touch my family, all bets are off. I'm no longer a finance guy. I'm that father, that husband.
Judge.
I'm a judge. And your sentence is not going to be light or pretty. You know what I mean? So I think that's right. And circle back to what you're saying. When someone steals from me, you can't come back from that. That's something I can't forgive. And I try to be a forgiving person. I do. It's something I work on because I grew up, my father always told me don't trust anybody. Yeah. My uncle was, a little crazy. And I grew up in this environment where that was like Goodfellas, and you're taught, no one ever disrespects you. To this day, I teach my kids words, sticks and stones may break my bones. Words. I said, words, you walk away from people, laugh at them. The minute someone puts their hand on you, everything changes now. They have violated the covenant of thyself and self-preservation. And survival to me is everything. So yeah, when someone does that, if someone steals from you, he should have got an ass kicking. And he's trying to take your business, which is doubly insulting. So, I've had that too. And I've recently taken a position in a company, food company, and I'm not the majority, which always makes me a little nervous.
I would not want to do that unless I really trusted them.
But as you and I get to build our relationship, you can hit me up and I'll help you have a control mechanism in place, even if you're not the majority shareholder. So with this company, in the contract, I have a tremendous amount of control in the contract. You understand?
Yeah.
Where they almost have to listen to me to a degree, to a larger degree. Otherwise, I wouldn't have did it.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand. If you're a minority, they don't have to dividend. They don't have to distribute. They don't have to do shit you say. Nothing. And now you're just sitting there watching them piss away your money, and you can't do anything about it. Literally. That's.
I'll give you a perfect. Being that we're on the fighting topic, that's like being in the UFC, right? The analogy, right? Giving someone money, you invest $1 million of your money, and they're running it to the ground, and you know it. And there's not a damn thing you can do, right? Because you have no rights.
Well, not only that, but imagine you invest in Lightspeed, and I make $40 million, and I say, "Yeah, we're not gonna pay dividends this year." And you're like, "Well, you made $40 million," and I say, "Yeah, whatever. We're just gonna keep that for dry powder." Well, when the company files taxes, and let's say you owned 40% of it. Dude, you owe 40% of $40 million.
Yep.
And the government doesn't care that I didn't give it to you.
That is correct.
I had no idea. So that's why I have a rule. If I'm not in control, I'm not doing it. Because, dude, I could literally say, well, we're going to keep it. And then you owe let's say it's 16 million in taxes, and I didn't give you a penny.
Well, there's ways to mitigate that. There are in contract structure, which I'm pretty good at, and I have a really good helper. But that being said, that analogy, like if you do that, it's like a UFC fighter in the cage and they got no more gas in the fifth round for the championship, and they're on the ground just covering, getting hammered. That's a frustrating place to be in.
Oh yeah.
Because you might be able to beat this guy if you had a little bit more fuel. And that's the same thing if you invest in these companies. So I put parameters in place with these startups where if I don't have control, startups I usually have control, but these bigger ones, I'll put a position on, and if I don't have 51%, I'll make sure that I have controlling. And there's ways to do that with the board and different things.
Articles and whatnot.
Yep. The board is a big utilization of that. Your board of directors, because they can vote on who the CEO is and CFO and the C-suite level executives. And that's a very powerful way to control, have a controlling interest in a company.
Yeah, that's how I almost lost mine.
You never, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But
I thought, man, I'm going to have a real company, man. Get a board in place. Well, that board didn't read the bylaws, because when I formed the company, I put a little clause in the bylaws that said it was called a super vote, which means regardless of how much I control or I own, my votes are worth X amount per vote, equaling the biggest majority.
Yep.
So like I always had one more vote than everybody collectively. So if I had 1%, technically my vote was worth 99 and 1. So when they read that, they were like, oh, and that's why I had to buy them out, because I fired them all, but I couldn't take back the equity.
Yeah.
So it cost me more than 2.4. It was there was 3 of them. But anyway, long story short, dude, I had to learn the hard way.
We all do. Brad, we all do. Very few people have insight, but that to the point I was saying, you still had your vote had the same weight as everybody else's combined.
And if I didn't, I'd have been screwed.
Done. You would have started over, and that would have been a tough one.
I'd have lost it. Of course, if I left at the time, this place wouldn't be here.
Of course.
Because I was the only thing keeping it going.
I'm going to circle back to that, to what you just said. Going back to the beginning of this, I mitigate risk by knowing the person I invest in, because it comes down to the person a lot of times, not always. With technology, it doesn't always. If it's tech that could be learned by other engineers, programmers, then the principle is not as important in terms of, they may be for vision, but not the tech.
Yeah.
And you can mitigate that way. But you have to know the person you invest with. For me, that's been the most critical success factor. So that CSF is the most relevant, knowing. So if you say, Emo, invest with me in Lightspeed, and I have to spend time with you. I won't just make it. I need to know you. And it's not your typical way of investing. Everybody looks at numbers. I look at numbers extensively, but I look at the person, and that's not emotional for me. Like what you did with the company, I'm going to have a real business. You got emotional. Never get emotional, ever. Put your emotions to the side. Even if me and you hit it off, we love Ammo. I'm hitting you up every day, man. Let's get pumped up. Let's do some things together. I live out here. We train together, right? We do all kinds. If we're going to do business together, it's business. And it has to be looked at business, straight lined. And this is the business piece. You're my brother. You're my friend. I love you. I'll do anything for you. I'll die for you. But this is the business. Let's keep it on the up and up. We don't get emotional. So you got emotional. That's rule number 1. Never get emotional. Never get emotional. So I never get emotional. But I have to love somebody, which sounds like it's emotional. But I have to really get to know you. Like, is he really integral? Is this person integrous? First.
Well, that's your soft side, because you got a soft side here, because you're also a philanthropist. You've got the Dominique Wilkins Financial Literacy Centers. You got SNAP.
Yes.
That's your give back, your soft side.
That's the soft side. That's my favorite side. So with the DWFL, Dominique Wilkins Financial Literacy Centers, we created that when we created the fund, pretty much. And what we wanted to do, and a lot of this was predicated on the athletes, going broke. I'm a math guy. So I'll give you the math real quick. Before last year, when football became guaranteed, your salary was guaranteed, right? Prior to that, it wasn't guaranteed. If you got hurt or something, okay, you're done, right? 90% of football players would experience economic hardship or go broke within 2 years of retiring. Think of that. These guys make it to the highest echelon of society, right? Beyond money. They're stars. They go broke within 2 years. Baseball players and basketball players, 70% with 4 to 7 years. Crazy, right? So that's how this whole thing came in terms of, let's educate these guys. And let's even start younger. I want to go back to high school because now with NIL money, familiar with that?
Yeah.
You know, like there's kids making millions a year. They get signed. One kid got signed, football player. His name's going to come to me. $15 million over 4 years. He's 18 years old. So I talk about this all the time with my team. I go, here's the problem. With all this money coming out of universities, another piece is you could start investing in university sports divisions. Pretty wild. I'm interested in that, right? It's like a new.
Well, I'm for NIL.
I'm for it too. 100%.
Because, dude, I mean, they're using these kids to make zillions of dollars. Like, give them some.
And bring the best talent to their school.
And before, they didn't have to pay them a dime. They weren't even allowed to. That's crazy.
Well, they may have been doing it another way. But that being said, these kids are going to have problems. They're getting all this money. They're going to put it in mama's bank account. And in 3 to 5 years, the IRS is going to get privy to this whole thing and go, hey, Brad, you signed at Michigan, for $4 million. Guess what, buddy? You didn't pay 1 penny in taxes. Where's the money?
Yeah.
So we want to educate not just the young athletes going into college and college to the pros. We want to educate their families too, so they have an understanding of how finance works and how you should do this and create a legacy. A lot of these kids, the vast majority of them get signed and make, maybe they make a 500, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. They're not going to make it to the big game.
How are you educating them?
We have courses. We have courses and mentorship. So we have courses, financial courses that are actually practical, that actually teach you about money and finances, and then how to have credit and what you do with credit and what you don't do with credit. And
what they should be teaching in school.
So we do what the school should be doing that we never get. None of us got taught, right? No one taught you how to be a parent either. But that being said, that is a major component of that, of the Dominic Wilkins Financial Literacy Centers. And then SNAP, Special Needs Adaptive Program, I created that 30 years ago. When I had my first dojo, some guy walked in, he's like, can you help my kid? I go, well, what's wrong with your kid? He goes, he's autistic. I'm like, people didn't even know what autism was 30 years ago.
Means he can paint really well.
He's Picasso, right?
Oh, that's artistic.
Artiste. So, when he said that to me, I said, well, what is it? He gave me a book. I read it overnight. The guy thought I was crazy. He goes, you read that book overnight? I said, yeah. He goes, I think I can help him. And there, SNAP, Special Needs Adaptive Program, was created. It was created initially to help autistic children. And since then, it's exploded and scaled up to a huge level where we help from pre-K through adulthood. And we help not just autism, anybody who's spectrum, right? And who's neurodiverse. They call it nowadays neurodiverse. And anybody who CP, cerebral palsy, big. We're in one of the biggest organizations in Jersey, oldest. We teach there. So we go in and teach them martial arts. It's probably the most rewarding thing. I go to these things. I go to these where we teach. I try to get there as much as I can and actually teach the kids. Brad, it gives me some kind of implicit gratification that not much else does. Like, it's almost like with your own kids, that kind of gratification when you see your kid do something cool. That's what, like, these kids are in wheelchairs. They can only move their fingers, but I see them sweating profusely, working like as if I was training, like, in a full contact fight, and it moves me. So that's something big that we do, and that's probably one of my my most prized possessions that I hold on to, because I want to scale that now across the country.
Well, how can the bomb squad help?
I think it did today, just being here. You have such a huge following, and by the way, I'm a big fan.
Why? Thank you.
I've been a big fan way before I even met you.
Why?
Certain people touch me. I've watched you, on social media. It's only 5-6 years you've been like really rocking, right? Yep. You started like not that long ago, right?
Yeah, like six years.
Yeah, right before COVID, and so I caught you one day. You said something like really cool, like about, I'm not into wokeism. I don't really do that thing. I'm logical and practical. And you said something about that, and I laughed. I go, this dude's crazy. I might like him, you know? And then I started seeing you come across my thread, and I said, and you start saying these crazy things. I laugh every day. I look on Instagram. Your stuff cracks me up. Like, you come up with these cartoons. I mean, it's very creative and funny. Like, and you're hitting core issues. So, I just followed you and I saw you grow. And I really, one of the things why I love private equity, I love watching people grow. Like, to me, I'm a humanist. Like, I'm really into people, being good people. Like you said, I wasn't that great of a person. Yeah, we all probably weren't. But either you're going to take this fork of the road or you're going to go this way. This way leads to a dark end. This way there's light. And you chose light. And, a lot of people don't choose that. It's a difficult path heading towards the light. It ain't easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pain in that, especially if we want to help people. So I started watching you and I'm like, man, this guy's pretty cool. He's got some very interesting insights on society and perspectives that are going on right now, and as importantly, you weren't afraid to voice your opinion. I respect that, because a lot of people are afraid to do that with the backlash of voicing your opinion. If it's not the cliche thing that I don't want to say majority, but what's cool at that moment.
Yeah.
You weren't afraid.
Well, I think the majority is more, they think like us. They just don't talk as much as the 100%. The crazies.
Mm-hmm.
The crazies will talk up a storm and scream and whine and stomp their feet. And keyboard warriors are sitting there and you realize they're 13-year-old kids in their grandma's basement and you're sitting there worried about what you posted because somebody said they didn't like it. And it's like, dude, I always tell people, don't post stuff that you think people will like or you'll be disappointed, man. Yeah. Post stuff that you like. Like I said it to the guy yesterday. He said, how you build the social media? I said, I put out content. He said, well, how do you know what to put out? How do you know what people will like? And I said, I'm not trying to put it out for people to like it. I'm putting out what I think is valuable. So it's like, I wish someone told me this. Hey man, I wish someone would say this, or, hey, this is what I think. I don't really care if you like it. It's because it's what I think. And I'm open-minded. On occasion, I've posted something where someone gave me something to think about. And I'm like, you know what? That actually changes my mind.
That's power. To me, that's power. What you just said, if I can listen to you and go, and I have this perspective, right? And all of a sudden you hit me with this. I'm like, wait a minute. Is my point of view wrong? Am I off on this? Maybe I got to be a little more open-minded, right? Going back to listen to my partners, right? And it's funny. Last time I was here, sitting right over there, right? You were interviewing Darren. You said something to me, and I talked about it at least 3 times with Darren. I just talked about your guys. I said, when I was here last time, Brad said to me, he looked over at me, you go, Ammo. You go, I think you knew I came from more like an institutional background. I think I said that to you before you started. You're like, advertising is this, and this is not the future, it's now. Like, TV's dead. You said, this is really how you get to the masses. And it hit me. Like you just said, the vast majority of people don't feel that way, but they don't talk. They're silent. And then you have these little, group of people who are barking away and making a stink over nothing, right? I feel like that having that influence that you have is powerful. Darren and I talk about it all the time. You know how many billionaires that he and I know who've lost their purpose? So two things I live by, right? Principles. Be led by your principles and don't break them for anybody. They're non-negotiable. Those are your values, your ethics, the things that you are important to you in your heart and soul. And I never break them for anybody. Those are established through learning and being a good person. And then, being driven by the things that you're interested in, your motivation is to get up every day and build this thing, right? To come in and influence people. And when you said it to me, it hit me. I'm like, you know what? He's right, man. Like, Darren's been telling me for months, Ammo, you got to get on social media. You got to start doing it. I used to do it with the martial arts a little bit. I didn't care. Private equity, hedge funds, they don't do this stuff. You know what I mean? Now I'm all over. I post every day and I love it because I get comments every day, like people, like inspiring people, you know, and it touches me. It's, you don't even know these people, but you know, you're touching them. And to me, that's something that, I don't want to say money can't buy, but it, you know, it's a thing that it doesn't require a lot of money. Anybody can get on here and start talking, right? Like you said,
just a TV channel.
It's a TV channel. Go post what you want. Like I was talking to your guys about the long form, like YouTube. We were talking about that. And I'm like, they're like, you know, when you watch TV, I go, I really don't watch TV. I don't like TV. It bores me, right? I don't have time for it, first of all. But I do, I'm on YouTube all the time looking up things. And
that's the new TV.
And that's what they said, you know, and it's 1,000% right to what you said, to your point. And I feel like that influence is so powerful. And I watch you and I'm like, who is this guy? You know?
I think lives are going to be bigger soon too. When they go live, like I just started going live on Facebook and YouTube when I'm taping these. People think that, you know, it's a live show. Well, it's not, but I'm coming out with actual live shows where like there's one's called Trending, where I'm just going to talk about the trending things that are going on, give you my 2 cents, interact with the people, you know, answer questions, or just give my 2 cents. So you should think about those too.
I appreciate that. Another pearl of wisdom, right? I feel like that's a powerful thing too, because they get a say in it in real time, your viewers.
Yeah.
So it's a more powerful thing than like if you put something on Instagram and someone comments, you or whoever's commenting is going to see it, right?
Yeah.
When you're doing this, anybody who's watching, even if they intend to, are going to see it. So it's a powerful thing. I love the technology you're working in. I think this is a very powerful platform, and it's inspiring.
So folks, if you guys want to follow this dude at James_Ammo, AMO _ Amorosi, AMOROSI, James_Ammo _ Amorosi. You can find him on Instagram, all those places. Where can people support your funds and stuff?
They can go on
your charitable funds
on Instagram. Everything's there. If they hit the link there, it brings up everything. Has all the, I sound like a really technology advanced person when I talk about this stuff. You click the link and it brings up everything. Linktree has everything on it, so they can go on there and
you're going to start dropping some content.
I've been dropping. I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually, I enjoy it. I have a lot of fun. You know what I mean? And, you know, since I really started following you, it really is, it's entertaining and it's insightful. So,
well, I'll go check out your page and give you my 2 cents.
Please, I'd be honored.
I think what most people miss when they're building a following is they're trying to create content and they forget to be the content.
Powerful, brother. That's a bomb. That's a bomb.
I've been forgetting bombs.
Let's go. Hit
switch my studio around.
The bomb. That's a pearl of wisdom.
Yeah, because again, I mean, like most people, they'll create content and then they'll turn the camera off, and that's when the real shit is going on, and they don't leave the camera on. And so I just discovered it one time, and the footage of me just being me and talking to who I talk to and going where I go, that's the stuff that gets all the views and whatnot. It's very rarely the content that I create, because I mean, I also create it, you know, where, hey, you know, you should do this and whatnot. But a lot of it, I'm smoking cigars, I'm talking to somebody, I'm talking on something, and boom, that's the stuff that goes viral, because you can't create that. Like it take you a long time to create that much content, but you're you all day long.
Natural. The naturalness of you.
Like when you and Darren leave here, like the conversation in the car is what needs to be filmed. This right here, that's only a fraction. What you need is the real. That's why, by the way, I'm the real Brad Lee.
I get it.
But dude, I'll help you. If you ever need help, I'll help you. Tell all the bomb squad, listen, go follow this dude at James_Ammo _ Amorosi. He's helping kids. He's giving back. He's been in the business a long time from investing, M&A. If you guys want to invest, look him up. If you guys want to ask about invest, raise money, get some money from him, hit him up. You got a question? DM his ass. Tell him you heard him on the Bomb Squad and you got a question for you. Those DMs, though, they could get a little bit intrusive. Sometimes I look, there's like 1,000 of them, and I try to get back to every one of them. So I'm sitting there up all night answering them.
That's what I do at night.
It's crazy, but I appreciate you coming in.
Oh, my honor. Thank you so much.
I wish I would have known you 10 years ago, where I should have damn raised some money.
You know what? God lines us at the right time, at that right moment. So I'm going to definitely stay. We're going to do something together. We're going to do some business together.
Right on.
All right.
Well, there's a bomb.
We love it.
All right, James. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank
Folks, as always, till next time, keep it real.